Unmasking the legend of Gong, the magical objects of Gong. Welcome back to Unmasking the legend of Gong. Today, we will witness Gong punishing the bully and protecting the weak, in which the perspective has been widened. The influence of Gong's legends reflected Gong's culture. It was a form of literature for the country folks. However, its influence extends to other social levels. Gong was a historical character, as others saw his behavior as frantic, especially when he was helping the poor and punishing the rich and those who were unkind. He received the due respect of the people, and they gave rise to the many legends of his birth, benevolent acts, helping people experiencing poverty, and miraculous acts, which eventually led Gong to be placed in the altars after his death. A story behind Gong's magical objects. One year in Tiantai, there was a rich harvesting. All the country folks said that it was due to the blessings of the Bodhisattva. So, they gathered in groups at the Guoqing temple to offer thanksgiving prayers. And Gong was joining the crowd. A loud noise was suddenly heard at the front. It was an old lady who fell because of the pushing around, and in the course of it, she knocked down a hawker food stall. The stall keeper was furious and wanted to beat up the old lady. "Hold it! How can you treat an old lady this way?" shouted Gong from amongst the crowd. The stall keeper stared at Gong for a while and said, "If you can pay on her behalf with 2 tael, then everything will be settled, and she is free to go." Gong dug into his pocket, and it was empty, so he took off his robe and requested to have it pawned. The stallkeeper says, "Is this some joke, holy man?" The stallkeepers were all smiles as they knew that the value of the robe was 10 times the worth of his little stall. The stallkeeper quickly took the robe and left in a hurry. Gong helped the old lady, cleared the dust on her clothes, and asked, "Madam, where are you going? I can accompany you home." Surprisingly, the old lady glanced at Gong and walked off without looking back or with a word of thanks. All the passers-by commented that the old lady was ungrateful. This incident was a test given to Gong by the old lady. Her silence was intentional, concealing a kindness against Gong. One night, as Gong was reading in bed, his door was open, and an old lady entered, the same old lady that Gong met at the Guoqing temple. Gong wondered how she knew of his home as they never spoke when they met half a month ago. The old lady said, "Master, do not wonder, we have met at the Guoqing temple, and you saved me. I am here today to offer my thanks." Gong asked, "Who are you?" "I am from Putua mountain at the southern sea. I went to the Guoqing temple to offer prayers to the Buddha and faced a horrible incident, and you saved me. I have nothing valuable to thank you for, only a broken palm leaf fan and a pair of broken cattail shoes passed down by my ancestors. I hope you do not mind." After saying that, she disappeared. Gong looked at the fan and the shoes. They were broken and worn out, and he wondered what use they could be. On his second thought, since they were gifts of sincerity, he ought to treasure them, and he then wrapped them up properly with a piece of brocade. Suddenly, the old lady's voice was heard, "Master, if you have regard for me, do not let the objects lie there." Gong took out the objects again and looked at them. It was a big palm leaf fan in perfect order with verses that indicated, "Helpful at all times to call for wishes." Once his hand left the fan, it returned to the broken condition. He then picked up the cattail shoes, which appeared new and shiny. Below the shoe base were written, "Walk 10,000 miles and across all directions on the other side." Again, the shoes returned to their broken conditions when his hands let them off. Gong put the broken shoes on, and he felt warm all over his feet. He felt warm and comfortable when he started to fan with the broken fan. Gong was overjoyed. He wore the broken cattail shoes, used his broken fan, and frantically was on his way out, forgetting that he only had one piece of clothing. The villagers saw that he was frantic and started referring to him as the mad monk. The old lady was a manifestation of Bodhisattva Guanyin. Since Gong descended to take reincarnation in the mortal world, she had not seen Gong for years and was there at the Guoqing temple to test if the kind nature of Gong is still maintained. She felt comfortable seeing that Gong offered help to people experiencing poverty. She offered him the wishing fan and the traveling shoes to enable Gong to perform his functions more effectively. He finds joy not in worldly goods but in the freedom and spiritual growth that comes from detachment. Another story of Gong is very dedicated to the people in creating peace and harmony. This formed the essence of the perpetual force on the vitality of the legend of monk Gong. He applies his divinity skill, is all for the people, and carries a heavy heart. He lives free and casually, his divinity is limitless and carries a grand force. He offers benevolence in all directions, his fairness, righteousness, and bliss abound. Some well-known folklore is recorded here to reflect the people's love for him. Tang District, a man named Dong Zihong managed to save 60 tael of silver, intending to deem his daughter, whom he had mortgaged 10 years ago, to a wealthy home to become a maid out of poverty. However, he lost all his silver overnight, was in grave depression, and contemplated suicide to hang himself. Gong went to the rescue, and as he was about to commit suicide, Gong persuaded him and took the opportunity to help him reunite with his daughter when the master of his daughter sought help from Gong to treat his sick mother and son. On top of it, Gong also helped him to have his redemption sum for his daughter waived by the creditor master. Gong possesses a mystical connection to the suffering and injustice of the world, allowing him to sense danger before it unfolds and guide him to step in. There was a maid from Jinling by the name of Yin Chun Seong. Her mother died early, and a huge of her father's money was cheated, which led him to his grave illness. Her father died 3 months after all his money had been cheated. Chun Seong sold herself to bury her father, and she knew that she would be married as a concubine to a wealthy family. Instead of that, she was sold to a brothel. While she was attempting suicide, Gong brought along 2 squires to the brothel and spent 500 tael of silver to redeem her and complied with Chun Seong's request to send her to the nunnery. Another story has it that in the Shihang district, there was a bridge of 10,000 affinities. The location was originally a central passageway with lots of passers-by daily. Eventually, the bridge broke down due to wear and tear over a long duration and caused hardship to those wanting to get across the river. Extortion for money was also rampant, which caused great distress to passers-by. Quarrelings and fighting were frequent. Reconstructing the bridge was a big project, and the district office was reluctant to come out with the money. A Haijiao temple was nearby, and the district office used the excuse that the bricklaying would bypass the temple's back wall. It demanded the temple donate 10,000 taels of silver to reconstruct the bridge. That naturally had caused strain and hardship on the temple. Fortunately, it depended on Gong to apply this wisdom and raise the 10,000 taels of silver, and the bridge of 10,000 affinities was eventually reconstructed, much to the relief of the country folks. Helping people in need were endless throughout the legends of Gong. The favor from Gong is excellent in helping people experiencing poverty, and justice will always stay in the hearts of others. Gong became famous because he drew a clear distinction between good and evil and was dedicated to helping people in need to ensure a peaceful and harmonious society. Out of his excellent nature, the people highly regarded 4 aspects, making Gong such an enduring figure in Chinese folklore. In the Changshan district, in Sun Village, a woman was widowed for 3 years after her husband's death. Her uncle plots to take over everything her husband left behind and wants to throw her out of the family. Her uncle forced her to explain why her stomach was bloating and accused her of adultery. Her stomach was bloated because it was caused by the sickness of strenuous blood in the womb. The case of adultery was reported to the court. At the court, the official physician also alleged that she was conceived, which led the angered woman to cut open her stomach on the spot to prove her innocence. Fortunately, Gong arrived on time and clarified the matter for her. Her uncle was subsequently punished accordingly, and the woman's grievances were lifted. In the olden days, the country folks greatly dreaded sickness. No matter who had fallen sick, Gong would take the initiative to visit the sick and provide the cure irrespective of the sickness and the medication required. There was an occasion where a python had contaminated the water and caused villagers in over 800 villages to be poisoned after drinking the water from the well. Gong subdued the python and used his medication to cure the villagers. Much of Gong's high moral qualities can be learned from his experience and applied to present-day society. In the stories of Gong, wherever there are grievances and displeasure, Gong would find himself there to eliminate or rescue the people. This is why Gong's legends are so famous. Gong conscientiously helps the people and considers punishing the bad as part of his obligation. It was said that in Sichuan, there was a great bandit named Hua Yunlong. Stealing and robbing were his ways of living. Killing people was his enjoyment. Along the way from Sichuan to Linan, he admitted that he had killed over 100 people. As he was highly skilled, the district office found it extremely difficult to have him arrested. The district office of Linan appointed Gong to have the bandit arrested. After much effort, Gong managed to subdue him and have him sent for execution. He had thus helped the locality to eliminate a ferocious monster. The applause for Gong came naturally from the country folks, who regarded Gong as their protective guard. Finally, Gong maintained as always, wherever there is the demon, he will be there to subdue, wherever there is the evil, he shall be there to counter, and whichever district officer has a problematic case, he shall be there to resolve it. Punishing the evil is his obligation. Thanks for joining me on this Unmasking the Legend of Gong, the Gong Magical Objects exploration. Stay tuned for more captivating tales.